The biggest lessons I've learned in my life are here. Through different topics, I'm going to inspire and motivate you to reach your success and your dreams. I'm so grateful that you're here on Journey to Success. So let's enjoy my next episode together.
Hey, Katherine, are you here? Yes? All right. Perfect. So let's not pretend. And the fact is that we had a technical issue, but that's okay. We're here. And tell me if you are ready, and I can start to make some question.
I am ready whenever you are.
Super. Okay, so in this episode, Katherine, I would like to split this story into 3 parts. Okay? So in the first part, we'll discuss the younger and the oldest child. In the second part of the podcast, we're going to talk about the middle one. And in the third part, we'll focus on a topic that concerns you, which is self-care. Do you like the idea?
Yes.
Fantastic. So I'll start with a premise. So all of us wish for a healthy child. And even though I'm not a father, I also wish for one day. But a wish is just a wish, and we don't have control over them. It is something that you perfectly know about it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And would you like to tell me more about your 2 children then, especially when you discovered that they were special?
Well, my oldest one is Evan, and my youngest one is Rebecca. And
all right.
Evan was diagnosed with ADHD and bipolar when he was only 3 years old.
Okay.
The pediatrician saw signs in him at his regular checkup. I knew that something wasn't right, but I was a first-time mom, and I was young. And I wasn't sure if the signs I was seeing were something to be concerned about or something that was just normal. He wasn't acting like all of my friends' kids were, and they were all about the same age. And so we went to the pediatrician, and Evan was thinking he thought he was Buzz Lightyear and could fly off of the exam table, and kept doing that over and over. And the pediatrician said, I think that we need to seek some more help. So I took Evan to a psychiatrist, actually. And he was diagnosed with ADHD and bipolar, which is highly unusual. Children usually aren't diagnosed at 3. That's really young. Fast forward several years, and when Evan was in high school, he developed a heroin addiction, and it became a bad heroin addiction. And subsequent to that, he was also diagnosed with schizophrenia. So he now has ADHD, bipolar, and schizophrenia. And my youngest, Rebecca, was actually not diagnosed until she was much older. She started self-harming. She cut her arms and her legs severely when she was about 10. She started doing that. And when she was about 11 or 12, we had her diagnosed with borderline personality and ADHD. And they're not sure if she has some bipolar traits to it, but right now, those are the 2 main diagnoses that she still struggles with today. And today she's 23 and Evan is 30. So
all right.
It's a long road.
It's a long road, yeah. But I guess has been some improvement all these years, especially because you discovered this at the early age, right? Or not?
Well, yes and no. When a child is diagnosed that young, it's very difficult to get a handle on medication because they're growing. And so medication needs to be titrated almost constantly. And Evan was a big kid, and so his medication seemed like it was never working properly. But I also had a problem with Evan because he wouldn't take his medication. And so I would find it like in the toilet, or I would find it in the sink. or he would just throw it away. He would stick it under his tongue so that I thought he took it, and then he would get rid of it. So he wasn't really compliant with his medication, which didn't help things. But it did with as he grew up and as he became an adult and got stable on his medication and actually takes his medication, it seems like it helps quite a bit. And the same thing with Rebecca. If she doesn't have her medication, she has a lot of problems and can barely function at work. She's got to have her psych meds, or she encounters a lot of problems. But as long as they're both on their medications, they're great people. It's just when the medication piece falls apart, we start having big problems.
It's okay. I mean, if the medication works, I don't see the problem. I mean, the problem is still there, but
Right.
Fortunately, we live in an era, right, where a medication is going very well.
Right.
So I wouldn't put as a issue. I don't know. I'm trying to be very light on this interview, Katherine. All right. So I don't want to put some heaviness, because anyway, it's something you are living already, and I think you fight it a lot, but you also know how to handle this kind of situation, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah, nice. Okay, perfect. And what about the second child? So, as I read, it was a typical child, so didn't have any particular issues, but it was a bit of troublemaker, as I understood from your biography. let's put in that. Let's put in that in the line.
He was a bit of a troublemaker. And,
Right.
he and Evan, his name is Alex, and
Right.
Alex and Evan would wreak havoc. I mean, together, they were just the dynamic duo. They were either
Wow.
together against the world, or they were boxing it out between them. They could do something, punch each other and call each other horrible names. But if anybody else got involved and did something to one of them, then the other one would stick up for that one. So Alex never was diagnosed with anything. I never saw any mental illness characteristics from him. He was just a handful and had a lot of energy, as boys do, and really liked to, he's very, very smart and really liked to kind of rock the boat. He and Evan really pulled some shenanigans growing up. But he's a great kid. He's a handful, but he always made good grades. He always did what he was supposed to do at school, where Evan did not. Evan refused to go to school. We had to have the police come over for a while and get Evan up and take him to school because he refused to go. So they were night and day difference, but they both had kind of a wild streak. And the difference was Alex could rein it in when it was time to be serious, and Evan was unable to. So Alex is a great kid. He just is a handful.
All right. Well, I don't know all the details, but I mean, the father, right?
Yes.
Was missing at the time, or
Yes, he actually went out of the picture, and so it was just me raising the three kids on my own. I never got child support. He never came for visitation. It was just me and the kids.
Okay. And perhaps that's the reason why the child frequently got into trouble, or maybe it could be because, and I'm assuming your attention was more focused on the two children with special needs.
Exactly.
Or maybe both.
I think it was a combination of things.
Both.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Alex really missed having a father presence in his
life. Of course.
And even though I tried to provide other strong male role models, we've got an uncle that did a lot with the kids growing up, but it's not the same thing as having a father in the house accessible all the time.
Of course.
And so I think that played a big role in things. I think had their father been involved, things would have been much different.
Yeah. You were trying to be a super mom, a super woman. So
I was.
you were, and I'm sure you are. So it's absolutely normal, You are still a human. So
Exactly.
totally understandable. Yeah.
Well, and it's very hard for one person to play mom and dad. They're men and women have such different parenting styles.
Yeah.
Usually the mother is more nurturing and father is more of the disciplinarian. And it's very difficult to be both at the same time. So I was trying to be, in a way, super mom, and it was
Yeah.
very difficult.
Listen, it is already hard for a single mom or a single father, to deal with 2 or 3 children. In your case, we were talking about 2 children with special needs, and the one was, let's say, a troublemaker. So,
Yes. Yes.
so absolutely normal. Yeah. And, in these days, school plays a significant role as well in a childhood. So how was it for all three, for all of them?
Well, Evan hated school from day one and
Yeah.
refused to go, didn't want to go. When he would go, he would cause problems. He would be suspended. He was actually expelled in the 8th grade, and he was just always a problem. The school was constantly calling me about issues with Evan. And that trickled down to Alex and Rebecca because they got the brunt of his reputation. And so the teachers didn't know what to expect after having Evan. The other kids at school, their older brothers and sisters would know Evan, and the reputation got kind of passed down. And Alex and Evan are very, very different people. And it was very unfair that Alex had to deal with Evan's reputation, but that's just the way it went. And so Alex loved school. He always made good grades. He always had a lot of friends. He still is friends with a group of boys that he was friends with since middle school. And so it was a very different situation between the boys. And Rebecca did very well in school, but she had a lot of health problems growing up. So she wound up being homeschooled for a period and wound up going back to regular school and did very well and graduated. And Evan never graduated. He got his GED because he just could not get to school. He just would not participate. And it was always a struggle. And I got almost daily phone calls. And in fact, the teachers, I remember up until about 8th grade, the teacher and I would send a notebook back and forth from school to home every day, reporting on what was going on, just to make sure that Evan was going to his classes and how things were going at home, so that we had an idea of what to expect in the different places that he was. So I don't know a lot of kids that have to take a notebook back and forth to school every day between the parent and the teacher to try to get a handle on things. But we had to with Evan. And then he outgrew the notebook once he got to high school, and he just refused. He either refused to go to school, or he would go to school and then not go to class. And he never graduated. He never accumulated the hours necessary to graduate. So he wound up getting his GED, but Alex and Rebecca both graduated. But it was a struggle for them because they had to overcome Evan's reputation.
Right. You know what I'm thinking? Like, I'm sure maybe another person asked you this, but have you never asked yourself, why to me? What is the reason
I have
this
asked
happened?
myself many times that question. Why did I wind up with 2 mentally ill children? Why did I wind up with these kids that had, a ton of energy and some issues? And I had Evan, but right before I got pregnant with Alex, I was injured at work and have been permanently disabled since then. So I was trying to deal with my own disability. I blew my back out at work and have had many back surgeries and medications and you name it. And so I was trying to deal with my own disability while trying to deal with all of these issues that the kids had. And the kids found out very quickly how to use my disability to their advantage, because I couldn't do a lot of things physically with them. And they figured out how to use that to their advantage really quickly. But, it was difficult. And I did ask myself why, because it didn't seem fair. I would, go to lunch with my friends and they would talk about their kids joining soccer or karate or whatever their kids were doing. And I couldn't get Evan into, we tried soccer, we tried karate, we tried Boy Scouts, we tried football. And Evan just couldn't contain himself enough to participate in activities like that. So it was very difficult to get him into any organized event. And my friends would talk about, their kids making good grades or being in these teams or, in these different clubs. And I didn't understand why my kids couldn't do things like that. Why was I stuck with two kids that had these issues when none of my friends seemed to have one kid that was stuck with issues?
Yeah.
That was a recurring question that I asked myself as they were growing up.
Before we go through, if you're enjoying this podcast, please consider taking just 3 seconds to share it with someone else. It is a small gesture that could make a big difference in someone's day. Now, sit back and enjoy the rest of the episode.
And did you have any partial answer or not yet?
Not yet. I guess I just kind of the conclusion that I came to is that God doesn't give you more than you can handle. And for some reason, they were given to me. And for better or for worse, it was up to me to get them through childhood and adolescence. And somehow I managed to do it.
You managed to do, and I'm sure there is a good reason behind as well, if I have to be honest. I'm a spiritual person, I have to say, and there is always a reason behind, it's, that's, how can I say, you can't see the path just because we are human being, right? So,
Right.
but the path it's bigger than we think. Just because we don't see doesn't mean that doesn't exist.
Absolutely.
So yeah, definitely. And how was it for all 3 of them in the house? How was their relationship?
They would pick on Rebecca quite a bit. The boys would pick on Rebecca, but at the same time, they were very protective of her from outside sources. And
Okay.
I always thought that they got along for the most part. I always thought that there was some sibling rivalry there, but nothing out of control or nothing horrible. But since they've grown up, I've heard stories where it was a lot worse than I thought it was, that the boys picked on Rebecca a lot worse than I thought they did. So I've learned that they didn't get along as well. At least from what they tell me, their view of their childhood isn't as rosy as mine was. I thought that they kind of all got along, with some fighting here and there, but I guess I was wrong. They, according to the kids now, Evan and Rebecca talk. Alex doesn't talk to either one of them. And I don't know why he's made that choice, and I don't know what the deal is. But I thought that they were all friends kind of when they were growing up. But I guess I was wrong. I've found out since they've become adults that they really weren't friends.
They're still succeeding. It's normal.
Yes.
But that's also the age. I mean, I don't think it's truly related to to the illness or I mean, it's just the age, you know what I mean? I think it's quite normal, if I
I
have to
think
be
you're
honest.
right.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah,
and there's 7 years between Evan and Rebecca, and that's
yeah,
quite a span.
yeah.
So, in fact, when Rebecca was born, Evan cut her umbilical cord. So there was a huge, span in age there. But I always looked at it as Evan was helpful with her and tried to help her, but I guess not. So kids will be kids, whether they have mental illness or not. Kids will be kids.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I totally agree. All right. So, and now let's end with the last part, right, of the story. So let's talk about you. I can imagine you in this date, as I read in the biography, after 20 years, realizing that your only topic was your children.
Yep,
So it made me a little bit laugh. And it's a beautiful thing, but you also recognize that you haven't had the time to discover yourself fully.
absolutely.
So, and now it's time to embark on a new path and explore more about yourself. So please tell us more about it. So how are you gonna try to discover yourself, what you are doing?
Well, I had Evan when I was 19, so I was really young when I had him. And I never had a chance to figure out what I liked as an adult. I had no idea. And after I spent their childhood just exhausted, and we were always broke, and I was always tired, just just exhausted and overwhelmed. And when I went on this date, the guy asked me what I like to do. And I could tell him for hours what my kids like to do, but I didn't have an answer what I like to do because no one had asked me that. And I had never spent any time thinking about that. It had never dawned on me. And I started thinking about it, and it really stuck in my mind. And I was a mixed media artist for a long time. And so I've always been very creative. And Rebecca lost her job at the beginning of the pandemic, and she called me crying and said, "Mom, I don't have a job. What do I do?" And I said, "You know what? I have all this soap making stuff in my kitchen. I've never used it, never made soap, don't plan on using it. Why don't you come over and we'll make soap so I can get rid of this soap stuff and get my kitchen back?" And she said, okay. And she came over, and we spent 4 or 5 days making soap and body lotions and scrubs and body butters and all kinds of things together. And we had such a good time that she said to me on day 4 or 5, Mom, this is really fun. We should open a business doing this, because we had
Hmm.
given soap and body products to all of our friends, all of our neighbors, all of our family. We had so much of the stuff that we had made. We didn't have
Wow.
anybody else to give it to.
So you open
And
a proper business then?
so, yeah, I said that would be a great idea, Rebecca. So I got busy making business cards and incorporating us, and we came up with a name.
That's fantastic.
And in the back of my mind, I'm still thinking about what is it that I like to do from that date. And it just, a light bulb moment went off that I really like self care. You know, I like taking care of myself, and I like helping other people take care of themselves. I think that that's an underrated um, activity. And I think that everybody can use some self care. It doesn't have to be expensive, it doesn't have to take a long time. I think that everybody is a better person when they take good care of themselves. And I know that I would have been a better parent had I felt like I had been taken care of as my kids were growing up. I felt like I
Yeah.
gave and gave and gave, and that my love tank was just empty. I believe that everybody has a love tank, and it gets replenished when people tell you I love you, or when people do things for you and you feel loved. But it gets depleted every time you do stuff for other people. And I feel like when my kids were growing up, my love tank was just empty. And through self-care, I could have filled that love tank up a little bit and been a better mom. I'm sure a better mom had I felt like I was taken care of. And so we decided to open this business. And of course, Rebecca wound up coming back a couple days later and said that she had chickened out and she had actually gone and gotten a job. And I was left with the decision of, do I carry on this Sergeant Bubbles company, or do I just forget all the money that I had spent and go back to doing mixed media art? Which way am I going to go? And I decided that my message should be that self-care is so important, that I want to help other people practice it. And so I started making handmade goods that would help other people take care of themselves. And that's become a really important theme in my life.
Beautiful. Nice. Beautiful. And now you have this business, you are succeeding. And as I understood, also your children, they're doing very well. So
They are. The kids are doing really well. They're productive members of society. They have jobs. They, Rebecca is engaged to be married.
Beautiful.
Yes, they're doing extremely well, and my business is doing well, and I couldn't ask for anything better. It's really gone from a lemon to a lemonade story. Things are so much better than I ever thought that they could be.
Beautiful. Who knows? Maybe you are gonna see the end of the path soon. Then about what God want to show you.
That would be nice. That would be very nice.
For me, you're very close. Listen, very, very beautiful. I enjoyed a lot. And what advice would you give to people in a similar situation before to conclude, Katherine?
2 things.
Mm-hmm.
1, to take care of yourself and nurture yourself, whether that means meditating or taking walks by yourself or using good skincare products. It's amazing what a nice bar of soap or a good skin mask will do for you. And it only takes, 10 or 15 minutes. It's amazing how that will buoy your spirits. And number 2 is, I would say, don't ever, never, ever, never give up. No matter what. I don't care how pointless it seems. I don't care how hard it seems or how much you feel like you're pushing boulders up a hill. Don't ever give up. There is always an easier path that will come your way. You will always get through the difficult times. You will always prevail. And it may not be in a way that you think is going to happen, but you will always come through the situation a better person. You just can never, ever, ever give up.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Katherine, for being here. Truly. It was amazing.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. See you then.
Here we are. Congratulations. You just finished my entire episode. So, the only thing I ask is to take a moment to give Journey to Success a rating. By the way, thank you so much for being here on Journey to Success. I'm very grateful. Thank you and see you next time.